Hello, it's the end of the year, and I never ever do this, but I'm going to actually talk about stuff that is not League of Legends on this channel, and I know a lot of people are going to bail, and that's just sort of the state that it's in, is that if I don't talk about League of Legends esports, you all don't care. But you know what, it's the end of the year, and people aren't watching this channel right now anyway because they are doing end of the year stuff. So I'm just going to post whatever the hell I want, and this video is all about the games that I played this year. I have 12 games on this list. That I really liked, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them, why I liked about them. This video is brought to you by Alienware. You can check them out over there. And also, I signed up for an Epic Games creator code, so if you guys ever use the Epic Games Store, which I know everybody's like, meh, but if you aren't like, meh, then maybe you can use my code for any of these games if any of them seem interesting, or any other games. The code is TRAVISGAFFORD. Hopefully that's easy to remember, but if not, I'll put it in the description of this YouTube video. So again, these are games that I played this year. Not all of these games came out this year because, again, some of the games I played this year were not games that released this year. So this is a little different from your like 2020 best lists of 20 whatever. So some of these games didn't come out this year. The majority of them did, and hopefully we can kind of talk through why I like them and go through why they're on this list. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first one. So the first one is Final Fantasy VII Remake. What you're seeing right now is footage of the original one, but here we go, Final Fantasy VII Remake. So this game, I knew I was going to play. I grew up playing a lot of the Final Fantasies. I actually did not play 7 until after I'd played like 8, 9, and 10, and even like 10-2. I know, even though I know a ton of my friends were super into it, I actually just felt like 7 was hard for me to approach from like a graphics perspective or whatever after I'd played like 8 or 9 and whatever. I just thought it was kind of like this weird Lego blocky stuff. But I did play it eventually, even though back in the day all my friends liked it. It took me a bit longer. So I knew I was pretty excited about this. Now, I had played Kingdom Hearts the year before, and I generally have not been able to get into the modern Final Fantasy games. But the battle system in this was really addictive. I really enjoyed it. It did such a good job of making it feel like you were playing an active version of the old turn-based Final Fantasy stuff. Like, they got the tempo down really well for the sort of being able to do this like real-time battle stuff, but then pausing to use abilities and do that kind of thing. I also thought it was just a very beautiful visual game. Oh, I should mention, by the way, that this game I got as a code from, I think it was from Square. Might have been from a Twitch bounty thing. Just know that in a lot of cases, these codes for some of these games I got for free through the developer. I think I have to disclose that. Anyway, I just really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were really well done. Rarely do I play a game these days that I just like super get absorbed into in no life, but this is one of them. And I really just enjoyed playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know there's some controversy around, and I don't want to give any spoilers, so I won't. But like, there are some things that are different from the original game. I don't think that is much of a spoiler, because if you're playing the game, you'll start to find out. But I actually thought that was quite fine. And yeah, I just thought it was great. I really liked all the different characters. I do wish that there was some a little bit more in-depth stuff with some of the ways that you can build out the different characters, the ways that you can use them. And I'm excited for whenever you have a bigger party, because right now it was pretty much just Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, and Aerith, and Aerith, and it kind of felt weird to have like a party of 3, and there's always one character that's not in your party, and so it just kind of felt strange to like just be like, who's the person out rather than who's in. So anyway, I really like this game. I thought it was really fun. I played it like crazy. I thought the combat was great. I thought the visuals were great. There was just very few parts of this game that I did not enjoy. So that's the first game. All right, next on my list is Total War Warhammer 2. Now, this game's been out for a very long time, but one of the cool things about this game that, and I'll explain a little bit more about it because I know it's kind of a niche thing in a second, but one of the cool things about it is that they update it with DLC very frequently, and I actually think this model for DLC is fantastic because the the way that this game is constructed, you play these long campaigns. So for those that aren't familiar with the Total War franchise, which I was not before I started playing Warhammer 2, basically the way it works is you play these really long campaigns. They're kind of like Civ in a sense, where you like build out buildings and develop technologies and all that kind of stuff. I've never really enjoyed those types of games, but then they have real-time battles as well. And let's see if I can actually skip forward to some of them. So they have real-time battles in this game as well, using the armies that you build, using the sort of campaign that you create over time. And all these campaigns can take like 30, 40, 50, 60 hours. So the game in and of itself, especially if you get it on sale, is actually just a fantastic deal. If you can enjoy the game at least. Because you just get so many hours of gameplay for the amount of money that you spend. But then it's really cool because they release all these, I don't know, once every like 4, 5, 6 months. I think they're getting ready to do Game 3 right now, so it's a little slower. But they release these updates, these DLC updates, which allow you to play entirely new campaigns with different races or different lords. And so it's really just fantastic. Now, I got into this game because Kelby, who some of you might know from Hotline League, he kind of pulled me into it, and he was playing it. And then I became friends with a streamer named Fenron Jenkins, who some of you might know that I've rated in the past. I would go check him out whenever he streams this game, by the way. But the problem with this game is it's much like League. There's just such a huge barrier to entry in learning how to play it. It can just be very daunting. It can be very overwhelming. I would definitely recommend looking at a YouTube video if you're trying to get into this. But for people that love the idea of like building out this large campaign of like conquering other races and other groups and factions, and going through and I don't know, trying different stuff in different ways across the map. Like maybe you're gonna ally with this faction and then go to war with this, and then you can start a whole new campaign if you want as that, or you can play as one of the factions that you perhaps conquered or whatever last time. It's great, and the map is huge. The game's huge. It's just a giant world. And even though I've been playing this game for probably 2 years now, it just like I keep going back to it, especially every time there's a DLC that gets updated, and I think they do a really great job of it. The game is a little buggy. I would not say that. No offense to the folks over there, but I would not say that Creative Assembly, which is the developer, is a like AAA publisher. So this is not necessarily a AAA game. It's kind of close to it, but there's definitely like a lot of polish that's kind of missing. But it's still like I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of game time in this, and that's pretty good, I think, for a game that I've only been playing for a couple years. So Total War continues to be a great game that I love this year. Next up on the list is Satisfactory. Now, this is a game that I first saw at E3, I want to say like 2 years ago, and I thought it was interesting, and I even subscribed for the newsletter, but then I just never really got into it. But then I started to hear a lot of people talking about it. I think a lot more people were playing it on streams, and Kelby ended up getting into it and really liked it. And so, because I was kind of predisposed to checking it out, I decided that I would do that. It is probably not a game for everyone, but it is very relaxing and enjoyable because it's a game about building out this massive factory. You essentially land on this planet, and you have to slowly start building things. Like you build a thing that allows you to mine some ore, and then that allows you to build something that makes an automated miner, and then that allows you to get something that is like a power generator, and then you start being able to automate the power generation, and you start to build out, and it's just like you can lose yourself in it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and I did. And I highly recommend this to anybody that likes that type of game or might like that type of game. One of the things that I like about some of these games, like this one, is I really like to hang out on Discord with people and just chat with them or chill, especially during the pandemic. And so having a game where I can just be casually playing it and doing fun stuff while also hanging out and talking to my friends about a number of different things, I think that is quite nice, and that's one of these games for sure. It's got hundreds and hundreds of hours of gameplay. You can land in all sorts of different areas on this planet. They all have different challenges and like difficulty to start in the very beginning. Everybody is. I highly recommend, if you have another friend that's into this game, you both play the game. You both start off without talking to each other about what you're doing, and then you compare your builds. Because what I ended up finding out is that like Kelby and I did dramatically different things to approach different challenges, because it's kind of just this giant sandbox with like objectives. And so he would start to build like up, and he would build walls, and he'd do all this stuff, whereas I just kind of went and sprawled out over the course of the entire space of this meadow that I was building. And I really, really enjoyed this game. It's super fun. Eventually we did get burned out on it. There is co-op in it now, based off of a recent update, and highly recommend the co-op. Wouldn't start with it, to be honest. It's more fun, I think, if you have two friends and like you both play for a couple hours and see what you do, and then you do the co-op. Co-op can be a little buggy. Just to be clear, this is an early access game. I should have said that at the start. But for an early access game, I think it is quite nice. And you'll find some stuff in the game where it's like, hey, we're not finished with this. Yes, we're going to add a new patch or an expansion, not an expansion, but a new patch or a new update soon. And then this will start to be used. But for the most part, it's really cool, really beautiful, really fun. Love a lot of the stuff. Every time you unlock new technology, you think again about what you're doing. Check it out. It's on the Epic Game Store. It's also on Steam, I think now. It originally debuted on the Epic Game Store, but highly recommend for anybody that likes a game like this. Okay, officially launched this year is Legends of Runeterra. This game has, for some reason, like this weird thing where people like to be like, LOL, LOR, or like, wow, I can't believe somebody plays that, or something like that. I don't think most people have played it. When they say that type of stuff, there's just a kind of a weird thing where people are like, card games. This game is what I wish Hearthstone had been all along. I think it's really fun. For card game players, you should know that, I don't know what G-Bay is doing in here. It's a G-Bay video. I should have watched it earlier to make sure that there's good footage. But I also just realized that I'm like kind of covering the URL of these videos, which is not great. Okay, we're going to take this down for a little bit so that I really like this game. I think it's fantastic. It's beautiful. The art is amazing. The animations are fantastic. And here's the thing. It's not pay to win. Like, everything in this game is they just throw cards at you. You're constantly unlocking cards. You don't ever need to spend any money on this game to be able to create amazing decks and to build stuff out and do fun things. I really like the expeditions, which is kind of like the arena thing in Hearthstone. If you played arena, they give you 2 free expeditions per week to play, and then you can unlock the expeditions anyway with the in-game currency, which they're throwing a ton of at you in the beginning. There's a great tutorial process to learn how to play the game. Just like the people that have decided that this is a game that is not worth playing without having played it, I just don't get. And yeah, I mean, maybe you don't want to play a card game. If that's the case, sure, that's fine. I'm not going to fault you for that, but highly recommend this game. I think it's great. Completely free, easy to download. You can play it on mobile. The mobile experience is fantastic. Just try it if there's any chance that you would like a card game. I've spent tons and tons of time playing this game, and it does kind of go back to that whole, hey, this is a game you can play while you're talking on Discord with friends. All right. I know this game is controversial. Everybody's like, oh, it's a walking simulator. I also know that this game did not come out this year officially, but as I said in the beginning, games that I played in 2020, and while I played and beat this whole game on the PlayStation last year, it did come out on the PC this year, and I love the PC version. You can play it on ultra-wide monitors, which is what I have. I have an ultra-wide monitor, and because the game is so cinematic, playing it on a cinematic aspect ratio, which is what you get with these ultra-wide monitors, is fantastic. Also, hashtag sponsored by Alienware, I guess, but the NVIDIA DLSS in the game also just makes it, you can play it on these higher resolutions, and it just looks amazing. Digital Foundry did a video about this game and the settings that you can get with it via, nice NVIDIA card, and I highly recommend you go check it out if you are interested in like nerdy graphic stuff when it comes to PC games, because they were just able to do a lot with it. Anyway, back into the game itself. A lot of people talked about it being a walking simulator. I was completely fine with it. Maybe the takeaway from this video is going to be people are going to be like, wow, Travis likes slow, boring games. I actually like a lot of action-packed games. We'll get to some in a little bit, but one of the things I really did enjoy about this is like, I think you can have a great gaming experience and have that gaming experience be something calm and thoughtful. I found that like the sort of puzzle aspect of navigating a lot of the tough terrain with all this stuff and the gear that you get and all that stuff. That was enjoyable to me, and it kept my brain active. It's not like I'm just pressing forward on the joystick and walking in a straight line and not really worrying about it. You do have to figure out how to come over to deal with obstacles and challenges, and whenever you're going through crazy snow-peaked mountains and there's like ghosty baddies that are around you and you're trying to avoid them, that stuff is very active and thoughtful. But there were definitely moments where I was just walking through a very beautiful landscape. The music started and I just listened to it and was able to really kind of enjoy this like beautiful dark landscape and sit back and relax. I think one of the things that's interesting too about this was like I, much like everybody, had seen the strange previews and trailers for the game where you have like Norman Reedus like laying on a beach with like a baby next to him, and they're like, what is this? And I had sort of disregarded it. But I've talked in the past about Tim Rogers, who is a creator that I really like. He used to work at Kotaku. Now he's an independent creator like myself, left a media company and went and sort of started his own thing. But Tim Rogers did an hour-long video on this, which is hilarious, by the way. Highly recommend the Tim Rogers Death Stranding video for Kotaku. It's an hour long. I think it's his review, but there's a couple other videos he's done about this. If you can go back and find it, watch it. It's great. Very funny. And so I had only planned, I'd never seen a Tim Rogers video before. I had planned to watch like 10 minutes of it because I was, what is this review? What is this game? I'll watch a little bit of this. I watched the whole thing and then I went out and bought the game afterwards. Not even because he was like, you got to play this game, but just because I just found myself really intrigued by what this software was. So I ended up really liking the game. I know it's not for everybody, and there's very long cinematics in it. Maybe that's not what you want, but really like Death Stranding. Did play it this year, so I think it counts, and I'd recommend it. Next up, we have Frostpunk. So this is a game that came out a couple years ago, but I played it because I got it on I think an Epic Game sale or a Steam sale at the end of last year. Actually got gifted to me by somebody. And this was a game I was interested in. I should show that this is GameSpot. This is a game that I was interested in and really ended up enjoying. I played it like the first week of January whenever Nick Allen and Kelby and I went out on like a guy's trip to Palm Springs back whenever it was easy to do big get-togethers with friends. But it's a kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's got a lot of the components of like a Civ or one of those things. You're building out like a city over time and you are making decisions on research and all that. And the whole point is like you are in this like wilderness. There we go. Show me the game. You're in this frosty world that has ice age has overcome, and you have to survive. So you have to make a lot of these different decisions over the course of time, and the temperature drops, and so you have to be able to survive during those times. You're creating decisions around where you're going to keep warm, how you're going to make people okay, how you're going to deploy workforce. You can go out and rescue survivors. There's all sorts of different stuff. I don't want to spoil it too much because part of it is just like going through the process and finding the different challenges that the game gives you. But it is this kind of like top-down, not an RTS, but like this top-down building experience where just over time you're trying to survive. I just thought it was really great. I probably played it for about 10 hours. It is an indie game, so you can get it for pretty cheap, especially during sales, and highly recommend people go check it out because I really liked it. And again, it's kind of got that another game that has like slower pace, but I thought it was quite fun. Next up, we have TFT. So again, I played a ton of TFT last year. You guys might remember I even competed in the TFT Twitch Rivals at TwitchCon, which was quite enjoyable for me. Got to experience what it was like to be a real esports pro, and really enjoyed TFT this year. I have not played the most recent set, but I did play a great deal of it with my friends Kelby and Julie in the previous set, and it's just one of those games that like I know I haven't played this set, but at any given point in time I know I could go back to and play a ton of. I think it's really fun to try all the different compositions. It's a great game to play with friends. I like that very few games I think have that experience of there's like 8 people in the game and they slowly start to drop off. You know, like the competitive side of this game is very different compared to a lot of others. Obviously, I know there's other auto battlers, but it feels like TFT was really the only one to survive the auto battler craze, and I think it's still going pretty strong. I mean, I know that their stuff goes up and down and kind of does great whenever new sets come out, and then goes back down again later on. But I thought the Galaxy set was fantastic. It's a really fun way to interact with the League of Legends universe, especially because I don't really tend to play League that much anymore itself. And I just love it. I think one thing I want to give a shout out to, in fact, I'll hide my cam so you guys can see him. Mort Dog, who is the lead designer on this, the dev team does so much to interact with the community, and I just want to give them a huge shout out because they are probably the most accessible dev team in gaming for any of the games that I play. I know there's some other really great ones that more indie stuff, but from a AAA studio, which is what Riot is now, I know people are gonna be like, aha, about the client. But from a AAA studio, the fact that these guys make so much time to interact with the fans, I think is really notable, and they should be commended. And I think that's honestly part of the reason one of the game is as good as it is, as they just do a great job of staying connected with the community and all that stuff. They do really cool stuff. So I highly recommend TFT for people who haven't played it and want a game like that. I've really enjoyed the Assassin's Creed franchise over the years, but one thing that's interesting is I will frequently get an Assassin's Creed game, and then I will not play it for a very long time. And because of the pandemic this year, I ended up feeling like I had a ton of time to dive into these like long narrative games. And so 2 of the games that I played were Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins. And I kind of went back and forth on which one I liked more. But I actually do think I liked Origins more, in part because it was a simpler game. That Odyssey kind of felt overloaded in a lot of ways, where there were a ton, like almost too many side quests. They did kind of go with that quantity over quality issue that I think some games have. I also like the fact that, and I think they do this in Valhalla as well, but there's an interesting thing where they want these vast worlds to be playable at any level that you're at, and so they scale the level up with you, or they scale the world up with you so that you can kind of go back to these older zones and not be like level 30 and just trouncing on level 10 units. They make it like level 28 because whatever, they want all the game to feel challenging and interesting. I kind of don't like that though, because, and I know it's a thing that a lot of other games have done, like WoW does it to a little extent, but I think I could deal with it on a smaller scale, or if there was a toggle or something. But one of the things that's frustrating to me is that I like when I level up and I can go back and feel really powerful by just like stomping over an old quest that like I maybe didn't get to before, and just feeling like, oh yeah, now I'm level 30. These other guys are level 10. At a certain point in time, you start to wonder, like, what is the point of having a level? I guess you unlock different abilities, but like, you don't really need to level up whenever the whole world is leveling with you. You're now just always relatively the same level, other than I guess there's some areas you can't get to yet. Anyway, I also just really liked the Egyptian aesthetic. I'll say that I think for a while I had not played some of the more recent Assassin's Creed games because I know they had like a bit of a dip in quality whenever they're doing yearly releases. But now that they're doing every couple of years, it feels like they've been able to deliver on it. I get that it's a lot different than some of the older Assassin's Creed games because they've gotten rid of a lot of the like assassin aspects of it and like this strong kind of like stealthy aspect, and now it's just become giant open world adventure game where you can run around and like not do any stealthing essentially. But I still really enjoyed it. I think it's fun. I love playing just like a cool, beautiful, well-crafted open world game with some interesting stories and some interesting stuff. I also do like the I know it's kind of controversial, but I do like in Assassin's Creed the outside story. There's like the story that takes place outside of these, where you're actually somebody in Animus going in and playing as these people. It's very meta. I don't think that in Odyssey, I did not like how they implemented it. And I've only played a little bit of Valhalla, so I can't say it yet. But I like that concept a lot. I think it's fun, and I do think it adds a little bit of flavor over just making these sort of like generic history adventures. But either way, really liked Origins. Would suggest it. It's on sale frequently. Probably is right now. And if you haven't played that, and by the way, Odyssey was pretty good. I just like, maybe if I hadn't played Origins this year and I'd only played Odyssey, I would have put Odyssey on this list. but I wasn't going to put both of them on the list, and I did kind of feel like Origins was a little bit more of an enjoyable experience for me, even though I did play like all the DLC from Odyssey. So I don't know. I played both a lot, but whatever. I kind of wish Odyssey was a little more constrained like Origins. Next up, we have Valorant. Shred's video, by the way. So Valorant is really cool. I'd played some CSGO with friends growing up, but I had not played a lot of CSGO, even since like college. And I don't know why. I know it's a good game. I kind of like watching it. But this game I think the fact that it kind of brought in a lot of the stuff that I liked about Overwatch, and in terms of the abilities and the unique characters and all that stuff, plus like the really exciting, really dramatic squad-based play style from CSGO, made it quite fun. And just like there was a period of time, I haven't been playing Valorant recently, but especially when this first game came out for like a month or two, it would just be so fun because it was like there were constantly Valorant games going. Everybody could play together. There's not a lot of drama around who was really bad yet. And that's the moment in time in a game that I really like, is whenever like a competitive game comes out, but like it's not a situation where like, because I normally suck in video games. So it's not a situation where like all my friends get way better than me, then they hate me because I'm holding them back. It's really tough. And just the fun sort of coordination, like the fact that I'd be like, okay, no, we're all going to rush this site, or we're all going to do this, or we'd go back and forth on strategies, and it'd be like, oh yeah, well, your strategy is terrible or whatever. It was a really great game. I think it's really well crafted. I know I'm going to probably go back and play some more of it at some point in time in the future. I think Riot did a great job with it, and the characters seem really inspired. I do wish that the cosmetic stuff in the game was a little cheaper, but it's kind of hard to complain whenever it's like a free-to-play game about cosmetic stuff being too expensive. I mean, it's just one of the reasons why like I don't think I would spend money on a lot of the cosmetics. But really enjoyed Valorant. Think it's a great game. Riot did a good job. Congrats to them for having 3 games on this list. Ironically, no League of Legends, but really enjoyed Valorant. It's a good game. Cyberpunk 2077. Never before have I seen a game where everybody is like just so torn on this. It's on a lot of people's best games of 2020. But then it's a lot of people. There's also the whole fact that like the game is getting refunded and you can't buy it anymore for the PlayStation on the PlayStation Store. I guess I would just say like the reason I have this game on the list is a couple reasons. One, I've played it only for about 7 hours. Maybe that makes people say, "Wow, Travis, why is this on the list?" But I played Frostpunk for 10 hours and it's on the game list. I've enjoyed the 7 hours I've had with this game, and last night I finally got through the first act, and I now know I want to play way more of it because I just think it's interesting. Even if the only thing I do is like the main storyline, which is perhaps what I will do. I've heard mixed reviews on the side quests. Some people say they're great. Kelby said it was great. I did not particularly think, or I there's other people that have said that they're not great. I don't know. We're gonna see if I do it or not. But I've enjoyed my time with the game. Now I should say I have a 3090, and a 10,000 series i9 processor in this Alienware computer. I get that like I am the 1%er of video game hardware experiences. That is why I can probably enjoy this game in a way that somebody who has a PS4 and an Xbox can't. And I don't condone the way that the company that made this, CD Projekt, how they handled it, because it's really scummy to intentionally not give people console codes for review, force them to review the PC version, and then boom, guess what? This game would have gotten an F for people that played it on console. So, and you could have stopped people, whatever. Everybody knows. I think there's a lot of really shitty stuff that they did with this game. But what I don't want to do is stop a little bit of nudity. Stop the people who are like the devs that made a game that I think is quite good and then got screwed over by a publisher who pushed it out the door whenever it probably could have used another 6 months of polish, or systems in place that forced it to be released on old older gen hardware that couldn't. I don't want the hard work that those people did to get diminished by I don't know, those stupid people. So I really enjoyed this game so far. I know I'm going to enjoy it more. I'm going to play a ton of it probably today. I've just been kind of busy during the holiday break, and so I haven't been able to play as much as I like. But I do really enjoy it, so it's definitely going on the list. And yeah, Animal Crossing's great. I did not anticipate enjoying this game as much. It's one of those games where I did not plan on buying it, and then the hype came out for it, and everybody was playing it, and somebody in my life was playing a lot of it, and so they suggested I get it, and I ended up really liking it. It's not the type of game that I would normally like. I know it's kind of funny because a lot of the games on this list are more casual or chill or slow or whatever you want to say, more thoughtful games, and this is one of them. But I don't know. I just have never really played a game like this, and I don't think there are too many that I would. But for the time that it hit, like at the very beginning of the pandemic when everybody was on lockdown, it was actually just such a nice, chill, relaxing game to like go plant stuff, have something to come back to every day that felt different. Progress was made all the time. It just was like really good. They did a great job with it. It's super polished and fantastic. And I think what is neat too about it is even though the multiplayer in this sucks, you know, like the whole thing of like, you have to add the person and then you have to wait for like an animation to visit their island, and like you can't really do too much. The fact that you can kind of build these islands, these different experiences. I love anything where people have a very, you know, much like Satisfactory earlier in this video, you have a sort of stable base level opening experience, and then you can build out all sorts of different stuff, and being able to sort of see how your friends and the people in your life approach different challenges with that sandbox and what they do with it is quite fun, because it gives you the opportunity to sort of show like, oh yeah, I did this. And they do little things too that encourage that, right? Like going to other people's islands to make sure you can get the fruit, because you can only get one fruit on your island, and you want to like go to other islands to get the different types of fruit. Just things like that I think are quite cool. I need to boot it up to look at like the winter stuff that they've been doing. But I did really like the fact that for different holidays that felt like there were different things that were going. It's just like the type of game where, you know, with a friend or boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever, you can sit down next to them and play together even when you're doing your own little thing. It's quite delightful. I really enjoy it. I think, you know, a lot of people focus, especially these hardcore gamers like us, we focus on like, oh, the crazy battle games, you know, like Valorant or Total War or I don't know, Cyberpunk is really... So just having like a chill game, which is not, in my opinion, a baby game, is quite fun. So hats off to Nintendo for making Animal Crossing New Horizons and making me a fan of a game that I did not anticipate I would generally be a fan of. Anytime a company can do that, I think it's really impressive. Final game, Genshin Impact. This game is amazing. Absolutely loved no-lifing it. Spent a ton of time on it. During Worlds, it was basically Mark and I watching the games in the middle of the night. It'd be 4:30 a.m. and we'd be halfway done with the day because, you know, we're watching from China, and both of us would just be no-lifing Genshin Impact. This company and the game drained my wallet in a way that I am not proud of. Admittedly, a lot of that was like people would sub to me, and then I would, spend the sub money, I guess, on this specifically because they subbed to me to do that. Another GameSpot video, by the way. Shout out GameSpot. And so that was, I don't know. I feel bad that I fell to their monetization strategy, which is kind of predatory. But the game is just beautifully crafted. It's so visually nice. Again, in kind of like a dark year, similar to Animal Crossing, having this really bright, beautiful color palette. I'm not even like into anime. I don't watch anime. I know I'm like one of the weird people in esports that doesn't watch anime because everybody else does. I just found that like the palettes and everything is great. I know it's kind of a ripoff of the Zelda game Breath of the Wild, but I don't care. It's good. In fact, I would say this game is kind of more pretty than Breath of the Wild from what I've seen of Breath of the Wild. Like there was somebody, FastV was streaming Breath of the Wild while this game was popular, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to go back and play Breath of the Wild because I never really played it a ton, and I think this game is just kind of more pretty. I also just love the diversity and variety of different characters. I know it's like a pain in the ass to unlock them. You have to spend a lot of money for some of them. But I do think that the sort of narrative around you have to spend so much money to enjoy this game is wrong. You can play like 20 or 30 hours completely free to play and have a great time. And I know people that did that. Mark, I think, hasn't spent any money on this. I think Win, who's a friend of mine, works at Riot. Some of you guys might remember from way back in the day when he competed on TSM Evo. That he streams this game, and I don't think has spent any money on it. Takes a ton of pride on that, and he spent hours and hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours potentially, playing it. They also just do a great job. The breadcrumbing in this game is fantastic. Just there's always something new you can do every day to log in. You can get some stuff. They do a really great job of hooking you, but it always feels like you're making great progress. Even just like the combat, which is pretty simplistic, it feels good. The world is fantastic. I can't wait for them to build out more of it. It's a game that I know I'm going to be going back to very frequently. They just released a new update that I haven't gotten into yet because I'm trying to play Cyberpunk and some of these other games that came out, WoW, etc. But yeah, I just really enjoyed Genshin Impact, and it definitely deserves to be on this list. So anyway, there's 12 games that I played this year that I really enjoyed. I've seen some people in the comments before even suggest that I don't do very much gaming, I guess because I don't really talk about it, especially for the people that follow the YouTube channel. But I just thought it'd be fun to highlight some of the stuff. Again, some of these are available on the Epic Game Store. If you decide to do that, you can use my creator code, which is just my name, Travis Gafford. It's linked in the YouTube description. For those that are watching on Twitch right now, you can just do !creator code. And yeah, thanks to everyone who watched the video. I don't think very many people will. So if you got all the way to the end of this, shout me out in the comments. Let me know that you watched all the way to the end, and I'll feel special. Thanks to Alienware. Check them out at alienware.com/Travis. Travis10 off Q4. Happy holidays.